Hey there, BookTube, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to hashtag Decamorama. That is a read-along of this giant book, The Decameron by Giovanni Boccaccio, and I'm participating in a read-along with Adam from Memento Mori. And so at the end of the month, I am doing 10 videos where each day I discuss one of the days that is discussed in this book. If you didn't get a chance to watch my video yesterday where I talked about what the Decameron is about, I'll just give you a very brief synopsis, but I also invite you to watch my day one video. I'm going to link that down in the description box. So this book is about these 10 young people. They're escaping the Black Plague during the mid-1300s, and they have put themselves in this abandoned palace, and so they're entertaining themselves by telling each other stories. Yesterday, Philomena was chosen queen, and she decided that the stories would have a theme, and it is, surprise, happy endings. And so each person is supposed to tell a story about a person who has experienced some misfortune but has emerged victorious and experienced this happy ending. Story number one is told by Nephele, and it's about this good man who, when he dies, the church bells start ringing even though no one has been pulling them. So they're convinced that this man was a saint, and the church bells mean that he's ascending to glory. So they have his body lying in state, and sick people are coming to touch this dead body because they're convinced that they will experience healing. So these three friends are from out of town, and they hear about this. One of them, Martellino, he pretends to be a cripple, and his friends put his body on top of the saint's body. However, when he pretends to be healed from his pretend malady, someone in the crowd recognizes him and spreads the word that he wasn't the cripple, he's faking. And so the crowd starts to beat him. His friends, in a desperate attempt to get him away from the mob, go to the judge, tell the judge that he's a pickpocket so that the judge will have him arrested. However, when they come to arrest him, everyone in the crowd starts to accuse him of being a pickpocket. And so they give Martellino a death sentence. And so his friends realized that they took him out of the frying pan and threw him right into the fire. But because they are tricksters and con artists, eventually Martellino is able to get away from his death sentence, and they're all able to return home. Happy ending. Story number two is told by Filostrato, and it's about this businessman whose name is Rinaldo, and he's traveling alone except for his servant, who we'll later find out is no help to him. So Rinaldo is traveling, he's riding on his horse, and he meets up on these three other businessmen also riding on horses, and he's so happy for the company, so he starts to talk to them, and they're all riding together. However, these three businessmen, they're not businessmen, they're actually thieves. They're pretending to be like him so that they can get him to some vulnerable place and rob him. Eventually, as they're riding, they're talking, and one of the thieves asks Rinaldo, tell me about your religion, tell me about your rituals, do you pray? And Rinaldo says, yes, I pray to St. Julian every day. Every morning I wake up, I ask St. Julian to keep me safe and to make sure that I have good lodgings for that night. While he's talking, the thief is mocking him in his head and saying, well, I don't pray to that saint, but I know for sure that you won't have good lodgings tonight because I'm going to steal everything that you have. Of course, eventually they do get him to that deserted spot. They rob him, they take his horse, they take his money, they even take his clothes. And his servant rides away from him. The servant leaves him on the horse. Instead of putting his master on the horse and they leave together, the servant rides away and leaves his master there, beaten, cold, naked. So Rinaldo starts walking, and eventually he stumbles upon this house where the mistress of a marquis lives. The marquis had promised to visit his mistress that day, so she had a warm bath, she had food, and so she was able to provide accommodations for Rinaldo. However, during the night, she extends the accommodations to also include herself, and they're able to have this amorous night. And in the morning, after Rinaldo has been fed and washed and clothed and loved upon, the three men who stole his stuff are arrested for some other crime, and so Rinaldo is able to also get back his horse, his money, his clothes, even his servant comes back to him. And so Rinaldo is able to return home better than he left, and knowing that St. Julian answers prayers after all. Happy ending for everyone. Story number three is told by Pampanio, the queen from yesterday, and it's about these three brothers who are terrible at managing money. After their father dies, he leaves them an inheritance, and they squander most of it. Right before they're eligible to go to the poorhouse, however, they move to England and they establish this money-changing, money-lending business, and they are able to make back their fortune. So they return home and they send one of their nephews to go take over that business instead. However, because their financial habits are still so terrible, they lose their money again. This time they have racked up all these debts, and so they're thrown into debtor's prison, and Only the business that the nephew Alessandro is managing is still thriving. However, because when misfortune comes, everything is wiped out. There's a war, and the business in England falls, and Alessandro is now returning home empty-handed, family in crisis, nothing is going well. On his way, Alessandro meets up on this abbot and this group of people going to see the Pope, and they invite Alessandro to travel with them. But one night, the abbot propositions Alessandro. What? But eventually he finds out that the abbot is really a beautiful woman in disguise. They fall in love, they marry each other, and when they get to the Pope, the woman, Alessandro's new wife, reveals that she is the daughter of the king. She's a princess. And so now Alessandro is married to the princess. They're able to rescue their uncles out of debtor's prison, pay off the debts, pay off the creditors, and everyone lives happily ever after. Story number 4 is told by Loretta, and it's about Landolfo, who's a merchant who has some money, but he wants to double it. So he leaves home to double his money by legal means. However, he loses all his money, and because he is intent that he will not return home worse off than he left it, he turns to a life of crime, and he becomes a pirate, and he's robbing ships and making money. And eventually, when he has recouped the money that he said he lost, he says, okay, I'm giving up this life of crime, I'm going back home. But in a cruel test of fate, on his way home, his ship gets taken over by pirates and he loses everything. But in another cruel twist of fate, the pirate ship gets swept away in a storm. The ship breaks apart, everyone dies, except for Landolfo, who is left clutching various pieces of wood until he gets to shore. But when he gets to shore, he's so beaten up, he's unconscious, and a woman rescues him and takes him home, nurses him back to health. And when he recovers, she gives him the things that he was clutching. One of those things was a chest full of jewels and precious stones. And so Landolfo was able to sell them and go back home better off than when he left. And he doubled his money. Happy ending for everyone. Story number 5 is told by Fiammetta, and it's about this foolish man who has way more cash than common sense. So he goes out to buy horses, but he's displaying his money, so he becomes an easy mark for thieves. And this prostitute, she sees him, and she's about to, go to him, but then she sees this old woman go talk to him, and she's hugging him and embracing him. And so when they part company, the prostitute goes instead to the old woman and gets all this information. She tells him that she used to live with this guy's father, and so she knows all this personal stuff about him. So at night, the prostitute, she invites this young man to her house. She pretends that she is this noble woman and she is his father's illegitimate daughter. And so, we're sister and brother, but eventually she robs him and he loses all of his cash. Next, he meets up on these grave robbers, and they're able to convince him to help them rob the tomb of this recently buried priest, and they con him and leave him in the tomb. Finally, he starts using his sense, and when another group of grave robbers come, he's able to get away from the tomb. He escapes with the ring that he stole from the corpse, and so he's able to sell it and make back the money that he lost. And so, I guess, happy ending, even though he's a thief. Story number 6 is told by Emilia, and it's about this wealthy man who's arrested and his family is exiled. His wife and 2 sons are living on this boat, and every day when the boat docks, the woman goes onto an island and spends some time mourning the loss of her husband. However, one day when she's on the island by herself, pirates come and take the ship. So she's lost her 2 children and she's lost her husband. And this woman, she's not able to deal with the loss. She becomes crazy. She starts to have this really inappropriate relationship with some deer. We won't get into that part of it. But eventually, someone comes to the island and rescues her and brings her back to civilization. And so she's now working as a lady in waiting in this person's household. Eventually, her adult son comes to the same town where she's living, the same house where she's working, and falls in love with the girl there. The father doesn't approve of the relationship, so he throws both the guy and his daughter in prison. Finally, the father allows these 2 young lovers to get married. The mother is reunited with her 2 children, and her husband is even released from jail. Happy ending for everyone. Story number 7 is told by Panfilo, and it's about the Sultan who sends his very beautiful daughter away to be married to the king. But on the way, the daughter's ship gets hijacked. Because she's so beautiful, the kidnapper falls in love with her and she also falls for him. But when the kidnapper is killed, she develops a relationship with the next person who inherits her. And eventually she has several relationships until finally someone recognizes her and is able to reunite her with her father in order to pretend that she is still honorable. They concoct this elaborate lie about how she spent the last 4 years in a convent, and everyone believes, so she's able to still marry the king after all and pretend that she was a virgin. Happy endings for everyone. Story number 8 is told by Alyssa, and it's about this young woman who has an older husband who she says doesn't satisfy her. So she propositions this count, and when he refuses, she cries rape. But he's convinced that everyone will believe the accusation, so even though he's innocent, he flees and takes his 2 young children with him. But he knows he can't raise them on the run, so he gives them away separately. And over time, you know, someone else is raising his children. He's not able to have contact with them. So after many years, his children are now grown up. They're married. They have children of their own. And he tries to re-enter their lives and to visit his grandchildren without revealing his identity. Eventually, his accuser is dying and she confesses on her deathbed that she lied about the count trying to rape her, and he is reinstated, and he's also able to reinstate his children to their noble birth. Happy ending for everyone. Story number 9 is told by Queen Philomena, and it's about these 3 men who are discussing whether wives cheat. And one of the men is saying that he cheats because he knows that when he's away, his wife is doing the same thing. One of the men, however, swears on his wife being a virtuous woman, and he says regardless of whatever temptation, his wife would never stray. And so one of the group challenges him and says, okay, give me some time and I will prove to you that your wife will cheat. I will come back to you and I will show you the evidence that I've been in her room and that I know her body intimately. And he finds a way to sneak into the wife's room and to see her body when she's naked. So when he comes back and tells the man that he does indeed have this information, the man is so angry. The man loses all of his money paying off this debt, and he's so angered by this that he orders a servant to kill his wife. However, the wife doesn't die, but because she is so afraid, she disguises herself as a man and she's able to pass herself off. After some time has passed, she's able to present her case to the Sultan. Her husband is there and the man who lied on her is also there. Her husband begs her forgiveness, and so they're back together, and the man who lied, his fortune is taken away and given back to this couple, and yeah, happy ending for everyone except for him. Story number 10 is told by Dioneo, and it's about this old man who marries this young woman, but he's not able to satisfy her fully. So he starts to observe all of these religious days that will require him to abstain from seeking his marital pleasures. The young woman is so frustrated that one day he takes her out on this boat ride and she gets kidnapped. Another pirate story. So she's kidnapped by a pirate who is so captivated by her beauty that he starts having fun with her, and she also starts having fun with him. But the judge is so heartbroken. He continues to search for his wife, trying to get her back. Eventually, he finds them. And he offers the kidnapper, he offers him a ransom to return the wife to him. And the wife says, I don't know who you are. And he's like, how do you not know me? I'm your beloved, your soulmate. How can you not recognize me? So he asks for some private time with the woman. When they're alone, she drops the act and she says, of course I recognize you, but I'm not going back with you. When you had me, you acted like you didn't want me, but now that somebody else wants me, you want to take me away. I'm happy here. I'm not leaving. And then to add insult to injury, she goes on in great detail about how well this other person is pleasing her. And that no matter whether it brings dishonor to him or her family, she's not leaving. And so the judge leaves heartbroken, and when he dies, the woman is now legally able to marry the pirate, and they live happily ever after. Happy endings for everyone. So that's it. That's the conclusion of day 2. After day 2, the group decided that they're going to take a break to observe the Sabbath and to wash their hair and all the stuff that women do. So we will be back for day 3, which is not day 3 on their journey, but day 3 of storytelling. So thanks for watching this video. Leave me a comment down below if you've also read the Decameron and want to talk about your reading experience, or if you just want to comment on something that I said today. I'll be back soon with another video where I talk about the stories from day 3 of the Decameron in #Decamorama. So until next time, happy reading. Bye.